Rock Shop,
Yeah.
your series on YouTube. If you haven't seen it, you have to see it. I absolutely love it. I think that is the greatest thing that I've seen somebody do. And it, I mean, what a great thing for you to be able to do, to let fans see things that, you know, we would never get to see. So how did all that come about? And can you tell us?
Yeah, sure. I wrote a book during the Euthanasia album, the recording, and the tour cycle, and then I released it during the Cryptic Writings album, because it took me a couple years to put it all together, and it's called Making Music Your Business, a Guide for Young Musicians. And at the same time, I was writing a column for Bass Player magazine, and I just started, you know, topics and ideas would come to me about just playing, about business, about things. And, you know, I always thought, it's like, man, if Gene Simmons or Steve Harris or Geddy Lee or one of these guys wrote a book when I was a kid, I would have bought it in a heartbeat. Because there's, you know, there's no, you can't go to school to learn what we do. You just pretty much, you know, you start out, you hook up with some buddies, you get in the game and you do it, and you kind of make it up as you go along. And obviously, it's easy to get, you know, pretty beat up along the way, because there's a lot of scoundrels, you know, and there's a lot of sleazy people in this business. And I got to say, it's gotten better in a lot of levels because it's gotten so corporate now, you know, which, as much as that is, you know, kind of has its own slant to it, you know, the truth of it is it's homogenized it maybe in a certain way, but it's kind of made it more like a business. But when I was growing up, man, I mean, it was like the Wild West being in the music business, you know. Yeah. So my people started asking me, go, man, when are you going to write another book? And I was like, geez, I don't know when I'm going to have another 2 years, because I know how much work it was. I wrote all of that. You know, I sat at my laptop and I typed it, and then I edited it.
That was one of my other questions. It must have been hard.
Oh, it was. It was a lot of work, and it was a labor of love, and I had a lot of time flying around the world on the airplanes, and I was typing out these chapters and stuff. But I finally just went, man, it'd be easier to just set up a camera and sit in front of the camera and just do these little 5-10 minute segments. Right. Pop them up on YouTube. Man, I get paid for them, you know, so it's not like it's about teaching to make money or anything like that. It's really about just doing it, again, talking to my audience and my fans about, hey, if you're a player, check this out. Hey, if you want to be in the business, man, here's what royalties are about. This is how the business works, you know. So because so many people they don't know, and you know, you kind of often have, if you do have a shot at it, it's a very short, small, narrow window, and if you don't get through it, you kind of miss it. And I know as an artist and a player how frustrating it can be when you're not playing and you're not out being creative and expressing and performing and doing that. It's like, even if you're not going to do it full time, just to be able to do that at all, that's part of the, you know, the creative people know, while you're on this planet, man, you got to get stuff out of you. Otherwise, you get frustrated and you internalize it, and it kind of, it's like you shrink and you kind of start to die, you know what I mean? So I want people to, man, get out there, get it out, and just go for it.
Well, it's great that you do that, because, again, nobody else has these little types of insights that you're giving, so it's absolutely phenomenal. Did you make a video today?
I did make a video today. I did a, you know, there's an organization here in town called the Christian Musicians Summit, and I've been involved with them for a long time, and they've reached out to me years back, and I filmed a DVD thing for them. It was about a year ago, and they and they said, hey, look, while you're up here, we'd like you to recut it and redo it, you know. So I had it on the books to do it today, so it was awesome that I was able to go in and do that. And it was it's basically essentially a bass instructional DVD. Oh, cool. That'll be out on Hal Leonard, so it'll be out through I would assume all the mainstream, you know, guitar stores and whatnot, as well as I think they're going to have it online. You can get it and stuff too. So, but it is the same thing, you know. And my experiences now are much broader than only playing in a metal band on big stages. I played in a lot of different settings, so I tried to address a lot of those things in that. And I don't know when that's going to be out. I'm thinking it's, as I'm told, maybe early next year or something like that. So,
awesome. Very cool.
Yeah,
Very
thank
cool.
you.
That is so cool. Well, I just wanted to ask, will you promise not to stop making those? Because we really love them.
Oh, that's cool. Thank you. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, like I say, I'll try to do as much of them as I can on YouTube. I haven't had much time to do many of those lately, but, you know, the other ones, once in a while, again, when I get tapped on the shoulder to do some of these other ones for other people, I try to make myself available. Thank you.
Cool. Okay. In 2007, you opened your ministry, and it is Mega Life Ministry. Yeah, and it seems like you're giving in so many different ways. Can you tell us how all that came about?
You know what? There's I grew up a Lutheran kid in Minnesota, and, it's kind of just, Norwegian, it's kind of our thing, So, and then when I moved to L.A. and, we started Megadeth, I really wasn't very involved in that. But when I was 25, I got my life right and got cleaned up off of all the partyables and all that kind of stuff. And little by little, I kind of started, going back to that faith walk, and then I got married and I got kids. And, when you have kids, you realize, man, your life is not just about you anymore, and you realize the responsibility that has been entrusted upon you to raise children. And all of a sudden it hit me anyway. I was kind of going, me and my wife were like, geez, we should probably have a benchmark here. And so just, I don't know. My wife is raised, she's an Irish-Italian Catholic from New Jersey, So we just sort of had this shift, and we raised our kids in kind of a Christian environment, and it's ironic because in metal, especially when we were back in the day starting Megadeth and all that, everything was like, like Hail Satan and all these kind of things, and that was kind of the whole thing, which is,
So how does that work? Is it conflicting now when you go out and play those songs, or?
It isn't, because, it's interesting. Megadeth is, our lyrics are either more about personal things or political things. There's a couple of tunes along the way that talked a little bit about it, but they were more like telling the story about it, not being like, trying to propel that or convince people that they should be participating in that. Ever. It was never about that. So for me, it's kind of like a story. But the Mega Life Ministries thing, a pastor had asked me to get involved with him because musically I had been involved somewhat over in that realm. I'd been to Nashville a lot and cut a lot of records for some Christian producer and a Christian artist and stuff. And I just enjoyed it, man. I love playing. You know what I mean? So for me, and it gave me something totally different tones, different players, different keys, different instrumentation, rather than it just being heavy guitars and drums and stuff. So I enjoy doing studio work and session work, and that just happened to be one I got a lot of calls in. So I had some experience, and so I enjoy doing it, And I've read the Bible now 3 times. Actually, I'm on my 3rd time reading through it, Once I graduated college, you're reading these books that are this thick all the time. And finally I graduated college and went, well, now what book am I going to read? And I looked around and went, well, there's that Bible. I never did read that. I should probably read it. And, part of the reason I wanted to read it was because politically I was really getting peeved at a certain faction, that always sort of used it to justify what they were doing. They would almost call in like, well, they would almost stand behind some sort of religious, I don't know, some sort of religious superiority, and that pissed me off. I was like, wait a minute, I need to read that book and know what it says, then that way I'm armed with the facts as well. And to me, Jesus was a liberal. You know what I mean? He would, at times when everybody was like beating up on everybody and stealing their money and doing all these different things, here came this guy, this little carpenter guy, and he was like radically way off the chart the other way, saying, hey man, you're blowing it, So. And so I enjoy reading it and seeing the parables and all these things. I think it's cool. I mean, the book of Isaiah, you could write an entire Iron Maiden album out of that.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Does it inspire you? Maybe like a whole concept album or something?
I love about a concept album. There's things in there that are cool. I mean, Megadeth over the years, we've used little bits and things. In Ashes in Your Mouth, there's a couple little pieces. And Dave has referenced Scripture and used Scripture, not to write a Christian song, and I don't know that we ever will do that. Maybe we will, But there's little bits and pieces in there because, I always thought the Bible was like a bunch of holy roller self-righteous people who did right. And then I read the Bible and it's a bunch of messed up, wacko, screwed up people who did everything wrong, right? I mean, really, that's...
We're supposed to learn from them.
Yeah, exactly. And it's sort of like, the hand of God comes down and straightens them out. It's sort of like, do it my way or you're going to pay.
Story,
yeah, and that's kind of been what I've learned in my walk in life is that it's like, I did the other way. I did smack and drugs and all kinds of crazy stuff. And I'm not going to lie, it was a lot of fun for a few years. And then it got its hooks in me and it took me down. And I had to get out and get away from it. And, to me, it's kind of like GOD, good orderly direction. Just live a good life, do the right thing. And it's like all of a sudden, man, doors started opening into a better life. And that started on the first Rust in Peace record because I got cleaned up when we recorded it. And I started on that tour heading down new roads. And, man, I had the best years of my career.
That's what you've done. And
yeah, you know what I mean? And look through all the whole 90s and everything. The Megadeth career got really big. And it's just, you put out good, you sort of attract good, and it grows and grows and grows. So to me, that's my view on it. I'm not like some hardcore religious zealot, so to speak. But I just I kind of tapped into the power of that whole thing, and it really, I don't know, it seems to just kind of flow and lift me up.
Awesome. That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Let's see. Let's take you back to when you were really little, like 11, before you were famous, when you were just starting out playing bass. How much time did you spend practicing when you were little?
I played at least a couple hours a day just for the love of it, because I kind of taught myself how to play. I mean, I grew up on this farm in Minnesota, outside this little town, about 3,000 people, and I mean, there were no bass players. There's one or two, and there's a couple of like country and western bands,
So what made you decide the bass?
I don't know, other than I would hear it and I loved it. Like I'd hear like Kiss shout it out loud, and I'd hear the opening bass line, and it was so cool. And then I heard Bachman Turner Overdrive, Not Fragile, and it started with a bass line. I'm like, dude, that is rad. And then I'd see, like, I'd open up the BTO album, and there's, Fred Turner with his Rickenbacker bass. And I was like, man, it's long and it's cool. And I'd never seen an instrument like that. And no one around where I was growing up was playing it. I mean, I'd seen some electric guitars, a few drummers, a lot of people singing and that, but no one was a bass player. So it just was very intriguing for me, and I realized it's like I started to get pretty good at it. It came really naturally to me. I was self-taught to a large degree. I had some books, some Mel Bay books that I learned how to play, and I had a few people that, gave me some instruction and taught me how to, taught me some things, of course, but most of it was just I'd come home after school every day and go down to the basement, and I'd just start woodshedding and practicing, and I just couldn't wait to get home and start playing. And for me, then just a few months later, I got together with a couple of buddies who were older than me, actually my brother's age, and we put our first band together. And that's always what I've done. I've always had bands. So it's like, to me, practicing is a means to an end, not an end in itself. And the end for me is to practice to get in a band, play songs with my buddies, and go out on stage and perform and have fun with it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. So how many basses do you have? Do you know?
I don't know right this very second. I would say it's probably, I don't know, 30-ish, maybe 30 or something like that.
And I know you've used lots of different lots of different basses. So do you have a favorite?
Right now I'm playing some brand new Jackson basses that they made for me. That they're in their custom shop in Corona, California, which is the Fender Custom Shop, which is notoriously one of the just hippest, coolest custom shops on the planet in that entire industry. Awesome. And they did a great job. I played Jackson basses back on the original Rust in Peace, back in that era of my career, and for me, I wanted this tour to just look and sound and feel identical to the old Rust in Peace record, and that tour, I wanted the people who saw us before to look at it and go, yeah, awesome, and I wanted the younger fans that hadn't been able to see, say, Clash of the Titans or something, to come out and go, oh man, that's what this was all about, So for me, this is about really truly replicating, the good old days.
Excellent. That's cool. Well, I know we're getting pushed for time here. I just got one more question for you. Do you know what a bucket list is?
I know what it is, yeah.
Do you have one?
I don't. I don't because, for me, I just kind of live one day at a time, you know what I mean? I take it a day at a time, and I've gotten to cross a lot of things off. For me, growing up as a rock and roll fan, I got to play with a lot of my idols that I grew up with, and I became a contemporary of theirs, so we got to share tours and bills and, concert bills and stuff like that. Yeah. So I've gotten to do a lot of that kind of stuff. And, look, there's always stuff that I want to do, but at the same time, I'm sort of like, man, I wake up in the morning and I just kind of, hit my knees and just say, whatever you want me to do today. You know what I mean? And that seems to just be a cool way to go. It keeps my expectations low. So usually when stuff comes, I'm like, wow, check this out. This is cool, So it's like always just new stuff comes in every day, and that way I'm just kind of rolling in the moment and not getting really, too wrapped up in stuff and just kind of flowing with the day,
Excellent. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure to meet you, and I'm a huge fan, and I can't wait to see you play tonight.
Thank you. Awesome.